report of Genders and Development Cambodia or GADCs and She Power IDEs from Cambodia, who are the research grantee in East and Southeast Asia. Let's move on to class. All right. Arise. I know that kind of you have heard this. You have heard this word several times. So ARISE stands for Advancing Research and Investment Standards for Equities. This is a 3-year project, led by a consortium of Criterion Institute, ANDE, and 2X Global, and financially funded and is funded by Global Affairs Canada. The goals of this project is to accelerate, adoptions of gender analysis and expertise within investments, and ultimately improve gender equality outcomes for women, girls, and non-binary individuals, particularly in the global south. There are 3 main, work streams, under a RISE project. RISE projects, which are standards of practice, translations, and investor engagement. I highlight translation here because this is the work that ANDE kind of lead, and under the translations work we have 2 components. The first one is the workshop that we conducted in 4 different countries, in Thailand, in Colombia, in India, and in South Africa. And apart from the workshop, we kind of financial support, 8 research projects, from around the world, and GADCs and She's Power by IDEs is one of them. And today, we are really kind of proud, to have them, sharing the findings of their hard work, through our 6 or 9 months, And so for today's, we're gonna hear. So today, we're gonna hear, from both organizations on how they kind of examine the intersectional challenges that affect women entrepreneurs in terms of access to financial products, services, and subsequent investment in Cambodia. You will also hear more about, the FPAR, or Feminist Participatory Action Research, and the research impact from our panelists today. And then after the panelist discussions, we're gonna have some time, to deep dive into the conversations through Q&A. So I would encourage, everyone to kind of bombard the panelists, with a lot of questions. If you don't want to kind of unmute yourself, you can also, put your questions in the chat as well, and then we can go to those questions during the Q&As. With that, I would like to kind of pass the mic to Geisha Ghani, who is the Chief Program Director of IDE Cambodia, who will kind of walk you through the findings of this research. Geisha, over to you, please.
Thank you, Pop, and apologies to everyone in advance. It appears that where I am, they've decided to do some construction above me. So if you can hear some background noise, I'm apologizing in advance. But it's great to be with you for what we have of this hour today. And I'm excited to share some of the findings we had from this research study, and then introduce you to all of the great panelists that we have today. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Pop. Great. So the purpose of our study was to really understand what the intersectional challenges of women entrepreneurs are in Cambodia. And the reason that we wanted to do this was there was this great opportunity under ARISE, and because gender lens investment is still a very nascent in Cambodia. So even though 60% of the businesses in this context are run by women, 26% of them are classified as small and medium, meaning that the vast majority of businesses are still at the micro stage. And this has created an insufficient pipeline for gender lens investment because they're often seen as unattractive for investment. And some of the reasons that we've heard for this are the fact that there's just generally lower levels of financial literacy, there's a lack of access and experience with capital, and then some of the barriers that exist to formal registration, which there is a lot of progress being made in this space, but it's not enough to kind of bridge this gap. So we were looking at, from an organizational perspective as well, how can we create reflective opportunities for women entrepreneurs to look at the power dynamics that exist within their lived experiences? How can we then take those experiences and use them to adapt our NGO and entrepreneurship support organization programs to better serve them? And then how can we generate some tangible recommendations for investors, the government, and financial institutions? And how can we advocate for that at a policy level? So I'm hopeful that people in this room will be able to help us in this mission, because even though the research study was concluded, this remains a core part of our strategic work as these two organizations who work together on this research study. And so we're hoping that much more can come out of this. Next slide, please. So in terms of our methodology, you'll hear a lot more about this after, but to give you a bit of context, what we were using is something called feminist participatory action research, where we're focused much more on the process and the how, and what we're looking at is analyzing the power dynamics that exist for the women entrepreneurs. We selected two different provinces because we wanted to compare urban versus rural. So we had Phnom Penh, which is the capital of Cambodia, and then we have Battambang, which is on the west. We also included a core caveat of feminist participatory action research is the women entrepreneurs themselves being the researchers. And so we work with 6 women researchers from these two provinces in order to collect 52 in-depth interviews, focus group discussions with 43 women entrepreneurs, and then 3 key informant interviews with institutions that focus explicitly on women, intersectionality, and access to capital. So that's just a summary of how we approached this research study. Next slide, please. So in terms of the key findings, this was a qualitative research study where we were focused on amplifying the voices of the women entrepreneurs and hearing from them directly. And we're very excited because we have 2 of the women entrepreneurs here with us today. But just to give you an idea of the kinds of things that we found. So I'll read out the quotes that we have here. I'm old and I have a disability. When they, and by they here they mean financial institutions, see me, they pretend I'm invisible and turn their head away, pretending they don't see me. And this was from one of our entrepreneurs in Battambang. Another said, I don't read or write, so it's very difficult for me to even receive information about the loan. Again, from Battambang. Then next, I previously could get a loan to expand my business, but there was a problem with my bank account that affected the bad credit on the central bank, the Credit Bureau of Cambodia. I was thinking of having joint property as collateral, but we could not verify it at the bank since there was no official legal document to verify that we're a married couple and own the property together. So this was about an LGBTQIA+ couple that participated in this study. Next, if financial institutions provided me with a package for my business investment without an interest rate, I would take it. But if it comes with an interest rate, it's against Muslim rule. So I normally borrow money from my family members instead whenever I am in need, as well as solving my business challenges when it goes down. So this was about a religious, an entrepreneur who's Muslim. And then sometimes I feel very depressed and disappointed in myself when financial institutions overlook my ability. So a little bit about the effect that it has on women entrepreneurs themselves. Next slide, please. So we used a framework for this research study where we were looking at, it was called the Gender at Work framework, looking at power analyses. And this framework has 4 different quadrants. So it looks at from the spectrum of individual to systemic and from informal to formal. So there's one quadrant focused on conscious capabilities. This refers to knowledge, skills, and political consciousness of individuals. There's another quadrant that looks at resources. So referring to individual conditions such as access to resources, voice, and then freedom. Then we have social norms and deep structures, so looking at the norms, structures, and practices that proliferate gender-based discrimination. And then we have formal rules and policies, so this is laws, constitutions, policies, etc., that enshrine some of these informal gender norms and practices into reality. So with that framework in mind, if we can go to the next slide. So again, in the interest of amplifying the voices of women entrepreneurs when it comes to these power dynamics, in terms of the first quadrant focus on conscious capabilities, some of the women entrepreneurs suggested that it would be good to have trainings or workshops for women entrepreneurs to learn about financial planning, keeping accurate records on income and spending, and how to make a business plan, because I still don't understand this, and I believe financial institutions will not trust me in getting a loan. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the Cambodian context, you know there are tons of organizations that are providing trainings and workshops for women entrepreneurs on this topic. But something that we heard from women entrepreneurs is that they believe the financial institutions themselves have more of a role to play in this, so that what they learn is more aligned with what the financial institutions are providing them. When it comes to resources, they also talked about the positions that financial institutions have, and for example, that they should have an exhibition program for women entrepreneurs with intersectionality, for them to gain popularity in their products and gain more support from the public. So in terms of the facilitation role that financial institutions could play in increasing things like access to market. Next slide, please. So in terms of quadrant 3, informal norms and exclusionary practices, this is where the bulk of our research really had a lot of very in-depth understanding from the women entrepreneurs and that reflexive process of them reflecting on this. So they said financial institutions themselves understand the intersectional experience of women entrepreneurs. For example, high-level staff or management-level staff, they even have a policy. However, there's a gap in implementation from staff, specifically credit officers. They lack awareness, training, and make an assumption that women entrepreneurs with disabilities might be an obstacle for them to approach or hard for them to ask them to return the loan. And then for formal rules and policies, they asked, as we expected, most women entrepreneurs asked, we want a low interest rate for people with intersectionality like us. Financial institutions should have promotions for women entrepreneurs and provide services in detail for us, even though we're widows, living with poverty, or single. And so these are some of the things that we found. And instead of giving you a definition of intersectionality at the beginning, I think that these voices have helped for those of you that are not familiar with the concept of intersectionality. It's the idea that you have compounding experiences that are determined by your geographical background, your age, your income, your language literacy, your education level, and all of these different aspects can layer and compound on top of each other in terms of the experiences that women entrepreneurs can have in this space. So with that, I believe that is the last slide that we had, if I'm not mistaken. So with that brief context in mind, if we can go to the next slide, then I would like to hand over to our researchers and some of the other key stakeholders that were involved in this research project. So we have Buliap Born, who is the Sustainable Agribusiness Development Lead at Mikov Inclusive Ventures. We have Chendi Eng, who is the Executive Director of Gender and Development Cambodia, GADC. We have Lita Cater, She Head of Impact and Jessie Advisor for She Powered by iDE. We have Sivorn Bormai, who is one of our women entrepreneur researchers based in Phnom Penh. And we have Yen Sanath, our women entrepreneur researcher from Battambang. And so we've prepared a couple of questions for our panelists, and we have some spark stories from our women entrepreneurs that we're going to intersperse throughout the discussion, just to make it a little bit more engaging and try out a different format where you get to hear more directly from the women entrepreneurs. And to add in advance as well, some of our entrepreneurs, in terms of English language proficiency, it's not their strongest. And so Sinath will be speaking in Khmer, and we will be sharing her story in the chat for you to read along. So with that, I would like to invite all of our panelists to be ready for some of the questions that we have for you. So first, I would like to ask, from your understanding of the research, from engaging with it through this process, but also from your own experience in the sector, what do you think are some of the main challenges that affect women entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds in terms of access to finance? And I'd like to start off with Chendi.
Thank you, Kaisa. Well, when we talk about these challenges that we found, I think Kaisa also present us a little bit regarding people with disability and also women from Muslim community. So let me touch base regarding the LGBTQI community. So those who are coming from the LGBTQIA community, they would just mention that because there is no marriage legalizations of same-sex marriage in Cambodia, it is very difficult for them to get recognized. And also when they apply, for loan or any like budget, it is a unique challenge because same-sex marriage are not yet legalized in Cambodia. So it prevents same-sex couple from having joint collateral in the form of co-owned property. That's meaning if they would like to apply for loan, there will be a lot of questions, and normally the the finance institution would like put them aside and not really want to discuss with them because they feel that this is not something that those couple can pay back if they borrow the money. So I just would like to touch base on this. I think other people would also want to share something. Yes.
Thank you so much, Chandi. I would say in this case, panelists, feel free. I'm sure there's lots of things you'd like to share. So maybe let's go to Lita next. And then after that, Bello, if you've got additional things to add, please.
Sure. Thank you, Keshan. Then thank you, Chandis, as well for addressing all of these challenges. So for me, when discussing about the challenge that women entrepreneur from diverse background face in accessing to finance, I see them happen in different stages. So let's talk about before accessing to finance. One critical thing is about the limit in accessing to information. So many women entrepreneur, or we call them like women lead MSME in Cambodia, especially for those from marginalized community backgrounds. I see that it is often lack of accessing to critical information for them about, like the financial option, whether it is understand that what is the loan, grant, or investment are available there for them, or the requirement and or even where to start. So this kind of information gap is a major barrier, and this is particularly true for women, especially living in the rural area, for those with lower level of educations, or women from like underrepresented group who might not have network or to guide them through this direction. And then for the other aspect, I would address in terms of during the financing process, looking at the complicated procedure. So we heard a lot in terms of even when they manage to apply, but the process itself is really tricky. So financial institution here often have the conflict procedure that can be eliminate the opportunity for women-led MSME here. In addition for this is also require, like collaterals or, to become along as a significant barriers. And many women don't have their own property or asset in their name, making it even more difficult to qualify for the loan. Yeah, so I would be addressing for these two things.
Okay, so thank you, Lita, and thank you, Smokandis as well. Thank you, everyone. So I think on that, just like in terms of my personal perspective, and also throughout my working experience as well with MSME over like different provinces in Cambodia, I would say on that it will be like at the first start of the financial literacy itself. So through that kind of experience, I would say most of them, it seems like they're upward business, kind of like family businesses. So which is not allowing them to segregate or separate in terms of family finance and also business finance, which is sometimes they overlap and also overspend. That also kind of tricky for them as well in terms of while they are applying for loan or grant, which is a different stage of the types of finance they require different kind of thing. So I think not to overlap on that, and we're going to deeply discuss about that later as well, because I think I will more broadly talking about it later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And go ahead, Chandi.
I just would like to share another one regarding from the religious background. It's also another challenges for us. Some of you might not really familiar with the background of finance institute or bank in Cambodia. We do not have Islamic bank here in Cambodia. Let's say Maybank. There is no Islamic Maybank here at all. So the Muslim women who would like to borrow the apply for loan, it's very difficult for them because it is against with their religions. Such kind of like gender lens or such bank for the Islamic is not available here in Cambodia. And also some of you country in Southeast Asia would also have know it, but like in Malaysia or Indonesia, you see that a lot. So this is not really available in Cambodia. Yep.
Good addition. Yeah, I think one of the things that we hear is that there's lots of access to finance in Cambodia because there are lots of microfinance institutions and there is billions of dollars in loans that are awarded. But we do find that there is still this challenge of access. And so that's one of the things we wanted to understand is for individuals that have these kinds of experience, what does that challenge to access look like and why does it exist? So thank you for all of your thoughts and contributions on this. So to go into some specific questions, because we'd like to talk a little bit more about the methodology and the impact of the methodology, because I think that was really what we wanted to highlight in this session. So Chandi, from GADC's perspective, this is something that you've been doing for a while. What would you say are the best practices when it comes to FPAR, and how does it affect and improve power dynamics through the research process?
Thank you, Kaisas. So reminded us back, this question really reminded me when we first talked about our methodology back in 2023. And then early of 2024 that we decided to really use feminist participatory action research as our research methodology and also use gender at work as a framework for analysis data. That time, we understand that all the research available for entrepreneur. I'm sorry, do you hear like very noise background?
Just a little bit. It's okay. You're still quite clear.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Just would like to continue with this. So, and then we found out that we need to use feminist participatory action research because this based on three main things. The first one, when we talk about intersectionality, it is not us as the researcher to decide what intersectionality here in the accessing to finance institute products or those challenges. Second of all, we are doing the research for women and with women. We are not doing research on women. So why not using IPA, right? And the third one is about decolonizing data. So this is happening so much for us to decide. And then when we decided that we will do IPA, we recruited women's entrepreneur who would like to join us doing the research. So we designed the research from the beginning until the end together, including topic, objective, and way of doing and conducting research. That's also empower them on the way so that they know that we are doing research with them and for them. So they are putting all of their ideas into collecting the data. And during analysis data, we are also doing the same thing. And that also decolonize data as well. A lot of time when we produce research, academic people would feel it that research have to have this kind of structure or that kind of structure. But for us, data is something should be owned by the community. So EPA have women entrepreneurs to own all of those data and also analyze from their own perspective rather than using the academic lens to produce the language that is not make sense in their community. Like Bob mentioned earlier, translation is very important. So our research was conducted in Khmer language, made it in Khmer language and translated into English language. So later on, we will share that to you and you will see how the translation look like. Also, in the same time, it helps us with our power dynamic. Example, we are taking on different roles. So the team member use different roles to better understand and finding, including stepping up, using power to leverage resource and access for women rights organization and making sure that the contribution to feminist movement is there. We are standing in solidarity and amplifying the work of other actors and also stepping back, creating space when others are better placed to lead. And the result of the research, we use this for women entrepreneurs to do further advocacy in their own community and also in the national level policy. So this how IPA work and how this approach has brought us together, and also in the same time working to challenge the power dynamic, and also in the same time of the patriarchy in data and also colonized data. Thank you so much. I would finish it here, and I guess you will, I think you will hear more from our women entrepreneur, Boramai, that will share her own experience regarding the research process. Boramai, please tell us a bit about yourself and what did you engage in this study, and how did you feel about this process? As also, what are the impacts of the research had on you as individual, and also what is one call for action that you have for the financial institute? The floor is yours, Boramai.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you, the team. Can you hear me? Okay. So, as Sandy said, I am Boramai. Currently, I own a coffee shop. And before I start this small business, I have work experience in marketing and branding, project management, where mostly I work to help like business people ranking from higher to smaller, and also have a little bit of mentorship experience for a woman entrepreneur before I start a business. So yes, right now I am in their shoe, where most of my income comes from this small business. Yes. So and this is why I interest in this research, since based on my experience, financing is one of the most critical since the start during the scale up for women entrepreneur to deal with. Okay. For what I learned from this research is that about gathering information on the experiences of women entrepreneurs with the financial institutions, and how our team to generate it into research funding. So from this research, I have better supporting system from women entrepreneurs themselves and myself that involved in this research. Also iDE, Cs, GADC, and other institutes that's involved. So from the research finding, in my opinion, this is like the question you all asked me. What is one call that you want from us, entrepreneur? Is to ask from financial institute is that I would like them to equip their credit officer with mentorship about entrepreneurship, yes, skill, and that if you want to know about what is the mentorship skill, from our point of view is that about wait a minute, is about push and pull question to make the business owner come up with action plans. It's not only the plan, but it's the action plan, their everyday plans, and to match them with the organization that supporting them. Yes, to create an entrepreneurship ecosystem. Thank you. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chandi and Boramai. I think the call to action is an excellent one and echoes a lot of what we heard in the research that we pulled together with these women entrepreneurs. So Lita, I'm going to have address the next question to you. So this research study that we did was building on a policy brief that we developed under the Women Entrepreneurs Act project, which was funded by USAID and completed in 2023. So we had, as part of this activity, we had conducted some initial research about the challenges in terms of access to finance. So the question that I'd like you to address to give our audience a bit of understanding is, how did the findings and the results of this research study compare to the first one? And what happened in that addition for the lens of intersectionality that we added? How did that make a difference to the things that we found?
Right. I love this question. Thank you so much, Kesha. So I think in terms of the approach and methodology that Chandi have mentioned earlier, which is very cool. And then for our side, when we're talking about the incorporating the feminist participatory action research, I see this study is, like significant shift for both of our approach and the depth of our findings. So comparing to the previous policy, which is we do in a similar topic, right? But more focused on the women from the diverse backgrounds in running a general businesses. But if for this methodology itself, I think it even allows us to explore more inclusive and intersectional perspective, which is leading to highlight a richer insight. And I think the key difference here for the insight that we study firstly will be focused in terms of, once again, we are about to be deep dive into the intersectional challenge, unlike the previous policy brief, which is primarily look at women entrepreneur as a broader group, but also the study used intersectional lens to survey the unique barrier faced by different subgroup, which means that Chandi and you have mentioned earlier, we also have an opportunity to explore the life experience of like women with disability, barrier women with lower level of education, and entrepreneur even with diverse sexual oriented and gender expression, women from different religious backgrounds, and the women from also non-traditional families as well. So if you're looking at the traditional research and even the previous research is often overlooked these ways. But for this approach, I can see is that we place the intersectional group in the center, which is help us in uncover systematic barriers specifically for the group. And in addition to the lens of the intersectional lities as well, I think it is really crucial to, like revealing the how multiple layers or of our identity interactions that create the challenge in accessing to the finance. So for example, we are also talking about like a woman entrepreneur with disability that does not only face about the gender barrier, but also with the accessibility issues, discrimination, judgments when it's come to the banking service, and also women from different religious backgrounds. Chandi just mentioned earlier in terms of the cultural norm impact their access to finance in terms of, like Sari and non-Sari practicing in Cambodia. So this approach, I think it helps us to see more about financial inclusion, which is not one size fit all issue. So it affects different group in unique overlap way. And lastly, I think what it helps is that it helps us to enhance our accountabilities and co-creations. Similar thing that Chandi already raised in terms of another major shift was the way that research has held us accountable for community we study with. So since this approach is first, we work closely with the women's entrepreneurs throughout the research process. Their voice are not just observed, but record. And the co-creation make our study is more authentic and action-driven, comparing to the previous one, which is we rely more on secondary data and external analysis. And then my final thought here is just kind of the reflection that I want to share in these rooms as well. Beyond this design, I want to highlight in terms of interesting and concerned pattern we notice in both studyings. The policy brief that we conduct 22-23, and then regardless of whether we're looking at women's entrepreneur in general or women's from intersectional background, the core challenge remains the same. The four main thing is limit access to information, the high interest rate, complicated of the finance processing, and also the collateral requirement that is stacking women to accessing the opportunity. So as we know, also in Cambodia, government initiated some policy to support, and then they try to encourage like the financial institution in Cambodia to adopt more flexible and inclusive for the lending practice. For example, I'm not sure if you ever heard for the credit guarantee corporation in Cambodia, which is introduction of SIM design for women-led MSME, aiming to simplify the application procedure and to help them in improving accessibility, and also they have to play as a third party in risk mitigation mechanism for the women entrepreneur who seeking for loans as well. But however, this is just the rest as a critical question that I have for myself a lot. If this challenge are the same across different groups, and are we tackling the right issue or just the surface problem? So that's why we have this kind of research. And what we do need we need to do more with the system change. And I would finish by now because after this, I would like to hand over some of the spark story that we have from our woman entrepreneur and also the researcher from Bat Dambong to also share her stories as well. And I may ask her to drop her story in English because she's gonna be speaking in Khmer. And just to highlight, we also have another woman researcher here joins as well. So please give them a big clap beside Bormai and Sinan. Thank you so much for joining with us. All right, so I'm gonna speak Khmer a little bit and invite our woman entrepreneur to join. បង Sinan ហ្នឹងហើយបងអាចចាប់ផ្ដើមចែកម្លែកបានអញ្ចឹងណាបងចាអានមួយញូតមកបងបងអានមួយញូតសិន
Okay. ចាជម្រាបសួរគ្រូអ្នកគ្រូទាំងអស់ចារីករាយណាស់ដែលបានស្គាល់អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះចាអ្នកខ្ញុំឈ្មោះយិនស៊ីណានមកពីខេត្តបាត់ដំបងមានអាយុ40ឆ្នាំមានគ្រួសារហើយក៏មានកូន2នាក់នៅក្នុងបន្ទប់ចារាប់ថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំមានមុខរបរជាជាងសាឡននៅឯខេត្តបាត់ដំបងចាហើយខ្ញុំក៏ជាស្ត្រីពិការភាពម្នាក់ដែរចាដោយសារបេតបហាអនៅពីតូចដោយសារនេះខ្ញុំមានជំងឺគ្រុនក្តៅខ្លួនខ្លាំងរួចហើយក៏បញ្ជូនទៅមន្ទីរពេទ្យបន្ទាប់មកដោយពីមុនលោកគ្រូពេទ្យមិនសូវមានជំនាញក្នុងការវិជ្ជាជីវៈក្នុងការមើលថែបានល្អក៏ធ្វើឲ្យជើងរបស់អ្នកខ្ញុំខាងឆ្វេងមានបញ្ហាពិការភាពរហូតដល់សប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃនេះចាប៉ុន្តែទោះជាអ្នកខ្ញុំមានបញ្ហាពិការភាពជើងខាងឆ្វេងក៏ដោយប៉ុន្តែអ្នកខ្ញុំនៅតែតស៊ូនៅក្នុងការធ្វើអាជីវកម្មនៅក្នុងគ្រួសារប៉ុន្តែអ្នកខ្ញុំមិនស្មារភាពនៅក្នុងសង្គមបច្ចុប្បន្នទៅលើផ្នែកសង្គមសេដ្ឋកិច្ចក៏ដូចជាហិរញ្ញវត្ថុនេះខ្ញុំមិនទាន់បានទទួលភាពស្មើគ្នានៅឡើយទេចា៎ប៉ុន្តែមូលហេតុដែលនេះខ្ញុំចាប់អារម្មណ៍ចូលនៅក្នុងការស្រាវជ្រាវនេះដោយសារមូលហេតុនេះខ្ញុំចង់ស្វែងយល់ពីបញ្ហាប្រឈមរបស់បងប្អូនអន្តរប្រសពក៏ដូចជានាងខ្ញុំទៅស្ថាប័នថាគាត់នឹងមានបញ្ហាអ្វីខ្លះដែលកើតឡើងចា៎ហើយខ្ញុំចង់ដឹងពីដំណោះស្រាយដែលស្ថាប័នពាក់ព័ន្ធគាត់ផ្ដល់ឲ្យនឹងមានការវិតម្លៃប្រសិទ្ធភាពណាខ្លះចំពោះការធានាបញ្ចូលនៅក្នុងការផ្នែកហិរញ្ញវត្ថុប្រកបដោយសមត្ថភាពសម្រាប់បងប្អូនដែលមានអន្តរប្រសពចា៎ហើយសំខាន់ជាងនេះទៅទៀតខ្ញុំជឿជាក់ថាខ្ញុំជឿជាក់ទៅលើការទៅលើអំណាចនៃការផ្ដល់របស់នាងខ្ញុំជាពិសេសបងប្អូនមានអត្តសញ្ញាណអន្តរប្រសពដើម្បីធ្វើការសម្រេចចិត្តប្រកបដោយការយល់ដឹងនិងការស្រាវជ្រាវយ៉ាងខ្ពស់ចា៎នេះបានជះឥទ្ធិពលយ៉ាងខ្លាំងទៅលើដំណើរការរបស់ខ្ញុំវាបានពង្រឹងទំនុកចិត្តក្នុងការធ្វើការជ្រើសរើសទៅលើផ្នែកហិរញ្ញវត្ថុដែលធ្វើឲ្យនាងខ្ញុំមានភាពក្លាហាននិងជួយឲ្យនាងខ្ញុំសាកសួរទៅស្ថាប័នណាដែលនាងខ្ញុំទុកចិត្តជាងគេហើយនឹងជ្រើសរើសផ្នែកស្ថាប័នមួយហើយឲ្យយល់ដឹងពីស្ថាប័នទាំងអស់នោះដែលយើងត្រូវកម្ចីថាយើងត្រូវបានព័ត៌មានអ្វីខ្លះពីគាត់មកកាន់ពួកយើងដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពចា៎ហើយមួយទៀតទៅលើការយល់ដឹងកាន់តែច្រើនពីក្នុងការកម្ចីប្រាក់ដោយធានាថានាងខ្ញុំរៀបចំ រៀបចំហ្នឹងកាពីបានល្អជាងនេះទៅទៀតបានទទួលនៅនាងខ្ញុំបានទទួលនៅជំនាញនឹងការអនុវត្តថ្មីដោយការបានរៀបចំក៏ដូចជាមរតសមត្ថថានាងខ្ញុំមានសមត្ថភាពក្លាហាននៅក្នុងការប្រឈមមុខឲ្យអាចធ្វើបានចា៎ហើយនៅទទួលបានជំនាញថ្មីការស្រាវជ្រាវពេលដែលនាងខ្ញុំចុះទៅធ្វើបទសម្ភាសន៍ជាមួយបងប្អូនដែលនៅក្នុងសហគមន៍ដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពទាំងអស់ហើយនឹងខ្ញុំហ៊ានតស៊ូមតិហ៊ានបញ្យល់ណែនាំនៅក្នុងការទៅប្រាប់អ្នកដទៃបានដូចគ្នាចា៎ជាមួយនឹងចំណេះដឹងដែលនឹងខ្ញុំបានយល់ថ្មីនេះនឹងខ្ញុំបានរកឃើញថានៅក្នុងជុំវិញស្ថាប័នក៏ដូចជាការគ្រប់គ្រងបន្ថែមសម្រាប់បុគ្គលដែលអន្តរប្រសពនៃរួមបញ្ចូលជាការរៀបចំឯកសារសាមញ្ញដែលមានភាពស្មុគស្មាញអញ្ចឹងរយៈពេលនៃដំណើរការផ្ដល់ឲ្យចង់ឲ្យខាងស្ថាប័នផ្ដល់ឲ្យការអត្រាការប្រាក់ទាបនិងធានាបានយ៉ាងច្បាស់លាស់និងលម្អិតព័ត៌មានបន្ថែមពីហិរញ្ញវត្ថុចា៎ការផ្ដល់តំណែងទាំងអស់នេះនឹងជួយឲ្យហិរញ្ញវត្ថុរួមបញ្ចូលកាន់តែច្រើនដែលមនុស្សគ្រប់គ្នាដោយមិនប្រកាន់អំពីកលតិសាស្ត្រប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រនិងពីពួកគាត់ចា៎ហើយមានប្រសិទ្ធភាពក្នុងការកម្ចីបានស្មើគ្នាចា៎ហើយខ្ញុំសូមវេលាទៅដល់បងស្ថាប័នដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធសូមគំរាមការរើសអើងចំពោះពួកគាត់ព្រោះភាគច្រើនពេលដែលខ្ញុំចុះទៅ research ជាមួយពួកគាត់អញ្ចឹងទៅគាត់តែងតែប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាមានការរើសអើងដូចថាយើងចង់បានប៉ុណ្ណេះគេអត់ឲ្យយើងស្មើភាពទេគេឲ្យយើងតែប៉ុណ្ណេះគេខ្លាចយើងជាជនអន្តរប្រសពហ្នឹងអត់មានលទ្ធភាពនៅក្នុងការកម្ចីទាំងដែលយើងមានសមត្ថភាពចា៎អញ្ចឹងសូមសំណូមពរកុំឲ្យមានការរើសអើងក៏ដូចជាការជួយគ្រប់គ្រងទៅដល់បងប្អូនទាំងអស់ដើម្បីឲ្យគាត់មានកម្លាំងចិត្តព្រោះពួកគាត់ក៏មានសមត្ថភាពនៅក្នុងការសងត្រឡប់ដូចគ្នាចា៎ប៉ុន្តែភាគច្រើនគាត់អត់សូវមានទទួលបានភាពស្មើគ្នាទាំងអស់ហ្នឹងពីខាងស្ថាប័នទេចា៎ហើយនៅក្នុងវគ្គសិក្សានេះខ្ញុំមានការរីកលូតលាស់សម្រាប់ខ្លួនឯងគឺមានការរីកលូតលាស់ច្រើនមែនទែនខ្ញុំទទួលបានចំណេះដឹងថ្មីបទពិសោធន៍ថ្មីក៏ដូចជាចំណេះដឹងក៏ដូចជាការណែនាំពីបងប្អូនដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពប្រាប់មកយើងហើយក៏ដូចជាស្ថាប័នក៏គាត់យើងក៏យល់ដឹងពីស្ថាប័នហើយមុននឹងយើងដែលយើងត្រូវត្រៀមអ្វីដែលជាត្រៀមអ្វីដែលថាយើងទៅកម្ចីពីស្ថាប័នខាងស្ថាប័នក៏បានណែនាំមកយើងឲ្យយល់ហើយត្រូវធ្វើអ្វីខ្លះមុនទៅរកស្ថាប័នចា៎ហើយនាងខ្ញុំសូមសំណូមពរមួយទៀតគឺចង់ឲ្យស្ថាប័នគាត់មានវគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលចំណេះដឹងបែបខ្លីៗទៅដល់បងប្អូននៅក្នុងបងប្អូនដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពនឹងឲ្យមានការចេះដឹងបន្ថែមចាហើយវាជាជំហានឆ្ពោះទៅរកជាប្រព័ន្ធសំពើជារបៀបប្រព័ន្ធដើម្បីងាយស្រួលនៅក្នុងការផ្ដល់ព័ត៌មានទៅដល់ពួកគាត់ធ្វើជាប្រព័ន្ធទៅហើយខ្ញុំក៏សប្បាយចិត្តដែលនឹងខ្ញុំមានកិត្តិយសនៅក្នុងការចែករំលែកព្រោះពីមុនមកខ្ញុំមិនដែលធ្លាប់ចឹងទេចឹងសប្បាយចិត្តខ្លាំងមែនហើយក្នុងការចូលរួមនេះខ្ញុំក៏អរគុណដល់អ្នកគ្រូទាំងអស់ដែលបានយកខ្ញុំជាយកនឹងខ្ញុំធ្វើជាអ្នកចែករំលែកតែយើងទៅ research ផ្ទាល់ជាមួយនឹងស្ថាប័នជាមួយនឹងបងប្អូនដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពផ្ទាល់តែម្ដងចា៎ហើយអរគុណច្រើនអរគុណច្រើន
Thank you so much for sharing, Sinat. And I hope for those in the audience that don't speak Khmer that you were able to follow along with the chat. We're getting close to, we've run a little bit over the time that we had allocated for the panel discussion. I do just want to give Bello a minute if he can, because in the wider context of this research, our hypothesis was that a lot of the things we see when it comes to accessing preliminary capital in the form of loans would be amplified when it comes to the stage of investment, which was really the wider interest for this study. Is there anything that you would like to add in terms of what these challenges mean for subsequent investment?
Okay, thank you so much, Keisha. I think I will try to avoid of what Lita and your team already mentioned. So just want to wrap up a little bit. Definitely will be three main core like challenges. First, limit access to the finance. It will be combined, include all legs of collateral, which is overall for all generalized businesses. Also, financial literacy, as I mentioned earlier as well. Definitely in terms of limit resources, financial resources. Not only for people living in the province or rural area, but also for people in the city, which is most of the like SME, especially for women, they didn't know exactly what types of finance available for them. On the other hand, as well, I would like just want to point out a little bit. I think that the crucial challenges as well for the last part. It limit in terms of like financial products and also mechanism, which is like most SME, they are able to asking for loan or grant from their various financial institutions or sponsors or donors itself. However, like some types of financial not tailored based on needed of the SME natures. So for instance, like some women, they're looking only for look like less than $1 million. However, the ticket size is too big, which is bigger than what they expected to get. So that's also, if I mean like that's only my point of view. If also financial institution can be produced or provide a tailored services of financial product for women SME itself as a special, that would be helpful, and not only for that women SME, but also cover with the Gen Z aspects as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bello, for adding a lot more context to our study from the inclusion perspective and from the venture building perspective. So thank you to all our panelists for their contributions. I believe we've had some questions from the audience, so I'll hand over to Pop to ask the questions, and relevant panelists, I'll field the conversation.
Thank you, Keisha. Yes, we do have 3 questions in the chat, and for the audience, if you have any other questions, just feel free to unmute yourself. I mean, raise your hand and then unmute yourself. Let's begin with the first one. We have the question from Mega Shri. Your question is, are these women entrepreneurs associated with any social enterprises? I'm not sure if you wanna unmute yourself and elaborate more on your questions, or if, Keisha, if you still can remember. Please, you can just answer her.
Sure. So just to add for the Cambodian context, the social enterprise category actually doesn't exist as a legal form of registration in Cambodia. This is one of the challenges that women entrepreneurs face, because registering as a small or small size business typically comes with it the burden of the tax payments and all of the registration that comes with that. And this is a category that, if it existed, may reduce some of the burden in this space. With that being said, a lot of the businesses that our collective organizations have worked with do have a social impact mission. So often, for example, a coffee shop will still have some kind of training scheme for trainees that want to learn. They may donate their profits back to the community. We often find that businesses in this context do this, but the challenge is that it's not a legal form of registration. And so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Keisha. Next question is from Sinuan. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Her question is, I may want to know about how the research would inform the decision makers, particularly for relevant government agencies and microfinance or banking system, who would address these key challenges among women entrepreneurs found by this research.
Excellent question. Who'd like to answer? Chandi, you're unmuted. I'm assuming you have something to say here.
Yep. So one of the great methodology that we use IPA is transforming data into action. So we have produced the very great leaflet summarizing all the key challenges and also recommendations that we can send to relevant stakeholder. Sinun, because she's also working in Cambodia. I guess everyone in Cambodia, we have the national policy for women empowerment. It's a 5-year strategic plan. So this research was sent to Ministry of Women Affairs through technical working group on women entrepreneur, women economic empowerment in Cambodia. So they integrate their research into that policy and also taking some of the recommendation for setting up the work plan and also the indicator in that national policy too. Also, in the same times, we are also sharing this to other relevant stakeholders as NGO working on women entrepreneurships and also some of the microfinance and also finance institute that we are working with, so they can also learn and see the thing about this. But we are not stopping here. We will use this research for finding for further advocacy as well. And the advocacy, just to let you know, it's not coming from GADC or She Power by iDE, just only 2 of us, but it's also used by our women entrepreneurs who join in this research as well. So this is how we have been doing so far regarding the research finding for advocacy at the national and policy level. I hope I answer your questions.
Thank you, Shadi. Before we move on to the next questions, maybe just give a floor to the audience here. Does anyone want to kind of unmute yourself and ask live question here with the panelists?
I think
Silence
there
later.
is another questions
Yeah, we
coming.
have questions from Joshua, right? But I
Yes.
just want to make sure that people can speak here. All right, if there is no question here, we can move on to Joshua's questions. His first question is there any microfinancing institution, perhaps fintech startups or cooperative that fills in the gap for non-bankable women entrepreneurs? And his second question is, are women entrepreneurs in the city or capital also have the same problems, or is it just in the rural areas?
I can take a stab at the first part of that question, and then I think I can hand over to Lita for the second half of that question. So in terms of institutions or startups that are supporting non-bankable women entrepreneurs, and again, non-bankable in quotation marks, right? Because all women entrepreneurs should be bankable. There is actually an entity called Boost Capital. Boost Capital was one of the partners under the USAID-funded We Act Women Entrepreneurs Act program that was implemented a couple of years ago. And one of the things that they do is try to create chatbot financial literacy, and then work directly with financial institutions for loan guarantees through app with the condition of that training. I'm not doing the best job of representing what they do, but they are a great organization, and we often try to find ways to partner with them in terms of access, creating reach and access to financial inclusion. So this is something that is filling the gap in terms of navigating some of the challenges that women entrepreneurs face, particularly with the credit bureau. So I hope that answers the first one. That's one entity that comes to mind. I don't know if our other panelists are aware of others beyond Boost. But I know this is something that we also try to do in terms of, for example, in our programs, facilitating access to finance directly into the hands of women entrepreneurs where possible in the form of grants, because this makes them a little bit more bankable. Lita, if you could answer the second question there about critical information and geographic differences.
Yeah, for absolutely. I think in terms of the geography wise for the woman-led MSME in Cambodia, whether it is in urbans or a rural area, I think the similarity in difficulty in accessing to information is quite similar. It's just the fact, the difference between those group I'm just writing down here. I think when we're talking about the women in the urban, they will be more likely closer to the financial institution, while the woman in the rural context, they might be far from the financial institutions. So the accessibility on how they engage with the financial institution in terms of the information, it might be different. And also somehow perhaps our woman researcher want to jump in this spotlight as well, is that we in the accessibility in the urban area is that we see the financial institution trying to be adopt more digitalization. But I do believe that when our women entrepreneur have opportunity to talk directly with the financial institution at their place, they might be feel more comfortable. So meaning that adopting the digitalization for the women based in the urban, it also somehow quite challenged as well, because digital literacy somehow it still be a limit and gap for our women. Urban is one thing, and then the rural area maybe add on another layers of their difficulties as well. And I think talking about the third point I would highlight in terms of networking and supporting body for the woman. These two, I think, are totally different. Women in urban, I think that it's kind of we build a lot of like the blooming ecosystem, the connection. So you will find a lot of easier into accessing the information or somehow anything that you want to share from each other. But for women entrepreneur, it in rural area, it even more difficult. So somehow it's similar. It still similar difficult, but it just like a little bit different in terms of how the function set for each geography. So yeah.
Thank you. I think we still have one more questions from Susharita. I think this is quite important for Andy, especially. What do panelists think and organizations like Andy can do as next steps to take findings from this study ahead?
Okay, nobody else is unmuting, so I guess I'll go first. Just first, a thank you to the ANDE team for facilitating the finance that was necessary for us to be able to conduct this study. I think things like this are what we would expect an organization like ANDE to facilitate, creating opportunities for entrepreneurship support organizations and NGOs like ourselves to be able to create those facilitations for the entrepreneurs we work with. Because really what we need for this kind of situation is, one, funding to provide more training opportunities that directly respond to the asks and requests of the women entrepreneurs in the study, as well as for us to be able to continue creating the spaces that the women entrepreneurs are requesting, using our space in the ecosystem in order to challenge financial institutions, create pathways, opportunities. And I think one of the biggest things that ANDE does, and I hope will continue to do, is to give us this opportunity to be curious and to be able to design products and services and programs that are outside of traditional product services and programs, because those are the things that will enable us to do the things that the women entrepreneurs want us to do and ask us to do. Because again, our role is the intermediary here. So that would be my contribution. And Suchi's got her hand up already.
Yes.
No, Keisha, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted to say that, and the reason I asked that question is we are very, very actively seeking out ways in which we can continue to make a difference, right? You may have heard of our Country Champion Initiative. That's one of the ways in which we're trying to do this. So, I mean, this is really a request to everybody who's on here today that if you have ideas, because it's hard, right? When you're asked a question like that to come up with like specific points, say, so I heard you talk about training, for example, right? But if you have ideas in other more substantial ways that we can try, and I will be completely upfront and honest, right? We need to go out and raise the money for it. So I want to make sure I set expectations, but we want to try very hard. So if you have ideas, please do write in to POP And I promise you, we will try our hardest to chip away at that and see how we can work with our members and partners such as yourself, Keisha at iDE and GADC and many of the others here. But yeah, just a request to say, please write in and share, and you can be rest assured we'll try our best. Of course, with no promises, because we do need to go out and find the money ourselves as well. Yeah. So with those few words, I'll hand it back to you, because I know we're over time, but I also saw somebody else requesting a question. So yeah, sorry, Pop, back to you. And I apologize for taking up a couple of minutes, but couldn't let this opportunity pass by with so many, wonderful sort of members and partners on this session today.
No worries, Sushi, and thanks for your excellent question. Yeah, we're gonna end this Q&A with the questions from Raksa, please. Raksa, yes. Raksa, would you like to unmute yourself? Yes, please.
Yes. My name is Raksa ខ្ញុំមកខ្ញុំមានអាជីវកម្ម Tour និង Travel Agency នៅខាងខេត្តបាត់ដំបងប្រហែលថ្ងៃមុននោះខ្ញុំបានចូលរួមតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងការប្រជុំជាមួយនឹងរដ្ឋាភិបាលដែលម្ចាស់អាជីវកម្មខ្នាតតូចមែនទែនដែលគាត់អាចស្នើសុំវិញ្ញាបនបត្រមួយគេហៅថាអាជីវកម្មក្រៅប្រព័ន្ធតើស្ត្រីដែលជាអន្តរប្រសពតើគាត់ជនជាតិពិការឬក៏ក្រៅសាសនាគាត់អាចស្នើសុំវិញ្ញាបនបត្រគាត់អាចប្រើប្រាស់វិញ្ញាបនបត្រមួយនឹងស្នើសុំកម្ចីពីមីក្រូហិរញ្ញវត្ថុបានដែរឬអត់ពីព្រោះអីខាងរដ្ឋាភិបាលបាននិយាយថាម្ចាស់អាជីវកម្មខ្នាតតូចមែនទែនអាចប្រើវិញ្ញាបនបត្រមួយនឹងដើម្បីស្នើសុំកម្ចីអញ្ចឹងចំពោះពួកគាត់ថាពួកគាត់អាចទាញយកផលប្រយោជន៍មួយនឹងទៅស្នើសុំកម្ចីដើម្បីពង្រីកអាជីវកម្មរបស់គាត់ឬក៏ start up អាជីវកម្មរបស់គាត់បានដែរឬអត់
So let me emphasize the question into English. So interesting about resting here in terms of recently can I បងខ្ញុំសុំតិចបងចូលជាមួយនឹងខាង government នៅខាងផ្នែកណាដែរបង
ខ្ញុំចូលផ្នែកការស្នើសុំចុះបញ្ជី
Okay.
បញ្ជីអាជីវកម្មប្រហែលថ្ងៃមុនខ្ញុំរក
Okay, it's fine. Thank you, Wong Chandi, for writing the English translation here, because she joined an event, and then there are some of the new initiative from government saying that they can provide the informal certificate for the business owner, so then they can access to the loan. So the question is that, does our study touch base in terms of intersectional group, they can also access to this kind of opportunities as well? All right. So I'm not sure I can be in charge for this question, but I feel like this is really new for us as well in terms of this kind of information. Perhaps I miss some of our team here have got to this new initiative. I don't have any answer for now for you right now, but perhaps this is something that maybe we're looking at in terms of the new initiative from our governments in Cambodia and see how we can integrate more information. Not now in our research, but maybe for the futures in terms of how can be touching base more in terms of this kind of offer from our governments as well. Yeah. Bong Chandi, if you want to highlight a little bit in terms of our research for this as well, please go ahead, or you think it's enough? Yep.
I think you cover it enough. Thank you all.
Yeah, my assumption with something like this, Lita, would be if they've said that women qualify, then all women will qualify regardless of intersectionality. I think the problems that we've highlighted in this research report is that there's not enough consideration of the barriers that women with intersectional experiences might face in the process of trying to get that kind of certification. And so I think what we would say is it's wonderful that that kind of opportunity exists. Have they considered how to make that accessible to everyone? I guess that question remains to be answered by those providing the certification.
Right.
So yeah, further question. Yeah.
Just a bit to chime in, Kisha. I think also Bongwasa, maybe she can follow with the page or Facebook page of FastMate. Since I know MIB right now, we are working with FastMate in terms of providing a training in terms of access to finance. So she might be bound the questions to them, since they are player intermediary with the financial institutions in Cambodia. So
All right, I think we are 7 minutes over the time. We can continue the conversations. I mean later. I mean other sessions, I believe. Well, on behalf of ANDE, as Network of Development Entrepreneurs, I would like to thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. I hope you have a good time. You enjoy the conversation, and of course, special thanks to all the panelists here, especially Cassie and she's powered by iDE for your amazing work on this. For the audience, I will be sending a follow-up email that include all the materials from these sessions, and I would encourage you to continue the conversations with our panelists afterwards. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.